Meanwhile, calls continue to grow for justice after the rape of a 7-year-old girl in the Eastern Cape. Some reports allege that this incident may have taken place while she was waiting for transport at school. Her school has also come under fire for how it's handled this particular matter, with some questions also being raised about how police have also handled this particular case. Let's now speak to Advocate Brenda Madumise, who's the director at Wise Africa. Wise for Africa, in fact. Good evening to you, Advocate Madumise, and thank you so much for your time. It's certainly very difficult to even hear some of the details here, and even in the earlier report that we just touched on of a 13-year-old who's now having to undergo counseling after she was allegedly raped by her teacher, 58-year-old man who's currently now on the run, and police are saying they still are trying to get a hold of him. How do you react to this incident and the one that we saw at the weekend? Advocate Madumise, I think you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. Apologies.
Now we can hear you.
Good evening. And thanks for having me. What we're experiencing and what we're going through with this too, I mean, the Makotopong case that was just mentioned earlier on, and the Polokwane case, is that it happens on a daily basis. I mean, some of them don't happen to hit the headlines of news and make it to news like we are doing now. But it's that's what we deal with on a daily basis. It's when we say that it's a crisis, and I think we don't need to take it lightly that we are dealing with a crisis. And I was just thinking as I've been reflecting this. Today, I mean, I've had a number of interviews, and I just thought maybe as a country we need to stop for a good 48 hours to 72 hours, and everything comes to a standstill, and we go to every single school as parents, as concerned citizens, and just have a talk about where we went wrong and what do we need to do, and really get people to open up and talk about what is going on in their families, at their schools, in the place of work, because it's this issue is broader than what we seem to get on a daily basis from the news, right? And I just because we keep on getting outraged by one incident after the other, and keep on hoping that something drastic will happen, and we get disappointed when that does not happen, and then we go on to the next one when something again happens that makes our blood boil and enrages us. So I think we really need to pause, and the pause that I'm looking for is literally this country must come to a standstill. If we believe that gendered violence and the violations that happen to young children, to young girls, to young women, to women in general, and whether it's also the LGBTQ community, we have to just arrest all of that and take a pause and look at all these measures that we have put in place. Are they working, right? And if they are not working, why are they not working? And you need to have everyone in the room so that there is accountability on why we fail on others and we succeed on others.
And I want to stay with that last point that you're making, because when you talk about the handling of it, that's also in part where things seem to fall apart, because whether it is the families handling it, whether it is the schools handling it, whether it's churches, whether it's police, whether it's, society in general, there seems to be some loopholes in how these cases are being handled as well.
Not true. I mean, it's you would have a child being violated, sexually violated, being raped, and she goes home to report it, and then the family intervenes and wants to have a conversation on how that matter should be dealt with. So, and when that is a crime in itself, right? So from the family side, we want to handle it in a different way, because maybe it's a neighbor, maybe it's an uncle, so we want to keep it under wraps as a family. The school does the same and want to protect their image and their reputation at the cost of someone who has been violently violated, but they're looking at their image and their reputation. The society at large, and that's why you have all this commentary about someone has not been found guilty, we can't talk about it. We can't. The person is not it's not responsible. In fact, is the victim that is lying in this instance. So we've got a plethora of excuses why we don't want to address this issue, because it makes almost all of us uncomfortable to have these discussions and to confront what we're dealing with head on, right? So it's I think for me, I've reached a stage where it can't continue the way we've been doing, right? And hoping that will some manna from heaven will fall and this thing will disappear. So it won't disappear until such time we confront it head on and literally dig deep into why is it that we have a society that is literally tone deaf also and not bothered with these kinds of things, and not asking for a serious stand still to find answers on why we violate children who are 2 years old, who are 5 years old, who are 7-year-old, who are found in institutions of learning.
And one would then even ask that, in all of this that we talk about, because there would be, for example, in some of the cases, there would be outrage, and we talk about this matter, as you say, and then we move on to the next one. But do we even stop to think about what this would have done to the child and how now their lives have been changed, possibly forever?
No, we don't. I think we've all forgotten about the rape of the young girl who was raped at a restaurant, I think in Pretoria, right? And the question that you're asking is very important, because the trauma of when such happens to one, we have not spoken about it. We don't know. In fact, society expects you to move on and dust yourself and get along, right? And when we don't know what that has done to you as a young child of 7 years, let alone what it does to an adult, right? Because it happens across that we don't talk of the harm inflicted and the trauma visited on a victim of sexual violence.
Advocate Madumise, as you say, it's time to move beyond being outraged, and it really is time for action. And as you say, that possible pause in order to have some uncomfortable conversations. Let me thank you for your time. I appreciate it. That is Advocate Brenda Madumise, who is the director at Wise for Africa, as we continue then to reflect on these, stories that are quite horrific and really difficult to hear.